I'm going to speak with the blessings prayed for from Srila Prabhupada on a topic which no doubt you're all aware of and have heard of and heard explanations of before, no doubt. It's the journey from Sraddha, initial faith, to Prema, pure love of God. In Srila Prabhupada's purport to Bhagavad-gita, chapter 4, text 10, he quotes the relevant verse in this regard. Bhagavad-gita, chapter 4, text 10, Vita raga bhaya krodha manmaya mamupashritaha bahavo janma bahavo jnana tapasa puta madbhavamagataha. Being freed from attachment, fear, and anger, being fully absorbed in me and taking refuge in me, many persons in the past became purified by knowledge of me, and thus they all attained transcendental love for me. Srila Prabhupada here translates madbhavam as transcendental love for me, which is equivalent to Prema, Krishna Prema. There are some verses in Bhagavad-gita which might seem to discourage us. Manushanam sahasreshu kaschid yatati siddhya yatatam api siddhanam kaschin mang veti tatvataha. Hardly anyone's even interested in the perfection of life, and of those who have achieved it at some level, hardly anyone knows Krishna in truth, Krishna says. But this verse gives more hope to us. When Krishna says, Bahavo jnana tapasa puta madbhavamagataha, many persons, by knowledge and penance, Srila Prabhupada translates tapasa as by penance, by austerities, they became purified and attained transcendental love of Krishna. Although, if we think about it, it may be daunting still. One has to become free of attachment, fear, and anger. And Srila Prabhupada explains that in some detail. Anyway, the verse from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu of Srila Rupa Goswami, in which this gradual, the particular word is used, gradual attainment of Prema is described, two verses. Ado Shraddha tata sadhu sangha atha bhajana kriya sadhu sangha atha bhajana kriya anartha nivritis tato nishta ruchis tata atha saktis tato bhava tato prema bhudanchati sadhakhanam ayang prema pradurbhave bhavet kramaha. Kramaha means step, so step by step. Srila Prabhupada's translation of these two verses given here. In the beginning, one must have a preliminary desire for self-realization. This will bring one to the stage of trying to associate with persons who are spiritually elevated. In the next stage, one becomes initiated by an elevated spiritual master, and under his instruction, the neophyte devotee begins the process of devotional service. I want to use Srimad Bhagavatam as a book stand. By execution of devotional service, under the guidance of the spiritual master, one becomes free from all material attachment, attains steadiness in self-realization, and acquires a taste for hearing about the absolute personality of Godhead Sri Krishna. This taste leads one further forward to attachment for Krishna consciousness, which is matured in bhava, or the preliminary stage of transcendental love of God. Real love for God is called Prema, the highest perfectional stage of life. And this is what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to give. This is what we are individually aiming at. Krishna Vishayak Prema Param Purushartha Jar Age Trina Tula Chari Purushartha. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when speaking to the Mayavadis in Benares, said that Prem, centered on Krishna, is not Desh Prem or Patni Prem or any such thing. It's specifically centered on Krishna, is the topmost goal of life, in comparison with which the goals of dharma, artha, kama, and moksha, religiosity, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation, are all insignificant. So this is the goal to be aimed at. Just quoted this, Manushanam Sahasreshu. Very few people may take to that. But if one is fortunate, as most of you all here are, having taken to the process of Krishna consciousness, then one can start to go forward in Krishna consciousness. Elsewhere, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu stated a little differently. Kono bhage karo sangsha koyanmuk hoy sadhu sange tabe Krishna ratir upajoy. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said that by some good fortune, if someone starts to become disgusted with material life, gives up hope of happiness in this material world, then if he gets good association, then he can begin to awaken his loving feelings for Krishna. Here we have Sraddha as the first stage, faith. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has emphasized the two kinds of faith. In Bhagavad-gita, we find there are three kinds of faith. So we're looking at different perspectives. These are three kinds of material faith. Trividha bhavati shraddha, dehinam sasva bhavaja. The three kinds of faith in material consciousness, very broad categories, are those in sattva-gun, rajo-gun, and tamo-gun. But here Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is talking about transcendental faith. So faith in Krishna, there are two kinds, Bhaktivinoda Thakur says. One is ordinary, worldly, sentimental, and the other is Shastriya Shraddha, based on descriptions of Krishna in Shastra. Here Srila Prabhupada mentions it's elsewhere he mentions. In the beginning there is faith in the scriptures describing bhakti. Faith in Krishna. There may be preliminary faith in Krishna. Some kind of idea that we should worship Krishna. For that to arise, there has to be clear knowledge of Krishna. Otherwise, we may have faith in Krishna in a manner which will not help us to advance in Krishna consciousness. For instance, there's some theory which I heard secondhand from a communist in Bengal that, yes, we like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu because he was open to all classes of people. So he was a forerunner of communism. This is not Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as given by our acharyas. It's not a transcendental conception of him Or we may think that, well, Krishna is symbolic of the fight of good over evil, paritranaya sadhunam vinashayata dushkritam. There are so many theories about Krishna. But somehow or other, if one can get faith which is, even in the beginning stage, the kind of faith that is conducive for development toward prema, that is a great good fortune. Kono bhagye. Again we have brahmanda brahmate kono bhagyavanji. With great fortune, Guru Krishna prasade pai bhakti lata bij. Then if one is very fortunate by the mercy of Guru and Krishna, one has the seed of bhakti implanted in the heart. What is that seed? That seed is faith, Shastriya faith, in the principle of pure devotion to Krishna. Anyabhilashita shunyam jnana karmadhyanavritam anukulyena krishnanushilanam bhaktirutama. Faith in the process of Krishna consciousness leading to pure devotion and beginning with pure devotion. Pure devotion in the completely perfect state is when one is free from all external influences, and one is situated in one's constitutional position of love of Krishna. In the beginning one should have faith in that I have to be free from everything which is extraneous to pure love of Krishna. And we have to cultivate Krishna consciousness in such a way that this arises. So the beginning faith may be very shallow. Again, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu describes that Shraddha vanjan hoy bhakti adhikari uttam madhyam kanishta shraddha anusare. One is eligible for devotional service by faith. And one is classified as a topmost, middle level, or neophyte devotee according to their level of faith. Jaha komal shraddha sheikanishta jat. Krame krame teho bhakta hoibe uttam. One whose faith is very soft is called a kanishta adhikari. Kanishta means in the lowest stage. But gradually he can come to the highest stage. Now this word komal, soft, that is very much wanted. The heart has to be soft to love Krishna, but the faith should not be soft. That means it can be easily misled. One can be influenced by all kinds of wrong ideas. But in the beginning there should be some basic faith. I was told yesterday that there's a new center of ISKCON somewhere here in Bengaluru, and there's a sign. It's a sign pointing ISKCON with an arrow. And the center is a little bit inside from the main road, but so many people come just seeing the sign ISKCON. That means they have some basic faith. They may not know what do people think of ISKCON. They think ISKCON is build temples and feed the poor. That's ISKCON. And Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. But they don't know much about what it's all about. But somehow or other they have some kind of faith that something good here. It may be that they're feeling a little bit shangsha kshayan muk, feeling stressed, distressed. They want to become more religious. No, if there was a sign pointing to Sadguru or what's that guy with the beard, Art of Life or whatever, someone with guy with the beard, there are so many. And so many. Oh yeah, Kirtan Mela, right? You have to have a beard. Not allowed without a beard. So they may go there also. If there's a sign pointing, they're just looking for something religious or spiritual, and by good luck, we hope, they come to ISKCON. So there's some initial faith, but they don't really know very much. But even that initial faith is also generated by sadhus. Because if Srila Prabhupada hadn't founded ISKCON, and if his followers hadn't helped him to spread it all over the world, then there wouldn't be an ISKCON to go to. And there wouldn't be devotees to speak on Gita, Bhagavatam, Caitanya-caritamrta, according to the pure devotional line, and to guide people in devotional service. It wouldn't be there. So some initial faith is also generated by association with devotees. But when it becomes that someone, they actually become somewhat serious, then they start to associate with devotees. They become somewhat serious means they're prepared to listen to what these sadhus say, because association with devotees means primarily by hearing about Krishna, chanting about Krishna, and serving Krishna. And there may be various ways that various people are engaged. Some people are not very interested in hearing and chanting about Krishna, but they think, let me give some donation. We often find rich people, they like to give a donation, but they don't like to come and hear. They might come sometimes for darshan, but they don't like to come and hear and associate with devotees. Maybe if there was a sadhu sangha made for them of people of their own economic status, they might come, because they might think it's below my dignity to mix with all these people who are on the level of my employees. Generally, moneyed people are materialistic, very concerned with prestige and what others are thinking of them. But if one can associate with devotees and hear from them, that is a great boon. What have I got written? I made some notes, yeah. Then sadhu sangha, one associates with devotees. And devotees will try to engage others, newcomers, in activities of devotional service. The next stage, bhajana kriya, means engagement in devotional service very seriously. And this is described by Srila Rupa Goswami. He's given these verses summarizing the process. And he says, Atha Gurvashrayam Krishna Dikshanu Shikshanu Dikshanam, or Dikshanu Shikshanam. So the first thing is to take, when one becomes very serious, then one takes shelter of a guru. That means that now I'm very serious to learn. Now I'm not just coming with some beginning faith or interest. And Krishna describes that again in Gita. Chatur vidha bhajante mang jana sukritino arjuna artha jignasur artharthi jnani cha bharatarshava. Krishna says 4 kinds of people may begin to worship me: those who are distressed, those who desire wealth, those who are inquisitive, and those who are in knowledge of me. So taking initiation means that however one came in the beginning, whether out of distress or out of just some initial interest or curiosity or desiring wealth. One has come to the platform of at least initial knowledge that I've heard from the gurus and sadhus that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I am His eternal servant. I am in this material world, suffering birth after birth. Now I should take up the process Sharanagati, the process of taking shelter of Krishna. By which I can become purified and become Krishna conscious and reawaken my dormant love of Krishna. So one should know this at the time of initiation and take shelter of Krishna by the process of devotional service. And bhajana kriya, there are so many activities that one has to undertake in devotional service. Remember, we're discussing the path to prema, and it's a gradual process. Prema abhyudanch sad, what is that? Bhavet kramaha. It's gradually, and the bhajana kriya stage, the activities of devotional service, beginning in neophyte stage, gradually becoming purified. This we have to engage in. Sometimes we may think, Hindu folklore, you could say, that which we may carry into our supposed practice of Krishna consciousness, that prema, well, it's just a matter of mercy, that's all. You just get some mercy and then you get prema. That's true, but the mercy is that we're given the process. We have to do our own work. It's not that, it's atah gurvashraya, the beginning of the process is taking shelter of a guru, but then you get Krishna diksha takes, and shiksha, then serving the guru, and then there are so many activities of devotional service which we have to engage in. Usually when a devotee passes away, you say, well, he's gone to Krishna. Well, in one sense that's true. For everyone, when they die, they go to Krishna, because we're all within Krishna. But it's not necessarily that because someone was initiated that they went back to Godhead. One has to actually become purified. One has to become free of all anarthas. By the process of engaging in devotional service, one becomes free of anarthas, unwanted things, those which are extraneous to pure devotional service. So one actually has to engage it, and it's a lot of activity. Bhajana kriya means activity. There's a lot of activity. Srila Prabhupada gave for his disciples early rising, morning program, stretching over at least 4 hours. Then again, evening program. That's supposed to be daily. There's a lot of work to do. This center has been established with all apartments around it for devotees to be close to the temple and avail of the facility of hearing and chanting about Krishna and serving. Don't mind me saying so, but just in the last couple of days, it seems that not many of if you think that all these apartments are full, then it seems only a small percentage attend the daily programs. And it may be, well, I'm busy, this, that, and the other. But the facility is there. And if we don't do that, then we don't get the effect. We have to do our work also. Again, this idea, you just get some mercy. Srila Prabhupada rubbished that idea. You just get some mercy and then you get instant perfection. He gave the example of one bogus guru and one bogus disciple, and the bogus guru touches the disciple. Shaktipat, there's some idea is there. That's in Tantra. And then with the electric shock feeling, both the guru and the disciple pass out. And then when the disciple especially, not used, he's got this sudden charge of spiritual energy, and then he passes, then he comes to his senses after some time, and he sees the guru is crying. He asks, "Why are you crying?" He said, "Because I gave all my spiritual energy to you." And it's completely bogus. So, yeah, we're laughing, and it is laughable, but it's unfortunate that people are misled by such ideas, and they may carry them into devotional service and think that, well, somehow I'm initiated and my guru is very merciful. Yeah, guru is very merciful means he gives you the instruction by which you can live your life. We have to do our work also. So bhajana kriya leads to, or an immediate effect, is an artha nivritti. The ultimate goal of bhajana kriya is not simply becoming freed from bad impressions in the heart and tendencies which entrap us in material life. The ultimate aim is love of Krishna. But that won't happen, that won't arise, that love of Krishna which is in the heart will not be uncovered, will not manifest, as long as the dirty things in the heart remain. Srila Rupa Goswami has stated, what is that? Karma. Pishache hridi vartate. How does that verse begin? Bhukti mukti siddhi javat. Yavat in Sanskrit. Pishachi hridi vartate. Tavat bhakti sukhasyatra katam abhyudayo bhavet. He states it as a rhetorical question. As long as the witch-like desires for, witch means pishachi, the witch-like desires for material enjoyment or liberation or yogic perfection, as long as these desires remain within the heart, how can the happiness of devotional service arise within the heart? This bhajana kriya and anartha nivritti, it may take some time. It may be very quick. Actually, it should be very quick because we don't have much time in Kali Yuga, do we? Our lives are not very long. We may think, well, I've been chanting Hare Krishna for 10 years and still I have so many bad things in my heart. It may be. You can consider that yogis, they may meditate for thousands of years and still have bad things in their heart. So, we shouldn't become discouraged. It may be also that we're going on in devotional service and we may seem to be doing quite well and we're not disturbed, we're happy in devotional service. And it may be that suddenly, seemingly from nowhere, we're hit by material desires, so many strong material desires, or doubts, or whatever. So these processes, Sraddha, Sadhu Sangha, Bhajana Kriya, it's not that we start off with Sraddha, then we come to Sadhu Sangha and we leave behind Sraddha. We build on that. The Sraddha remains throughout the process. And that has to be built on, developed. We have to remain in the association of devotees. It's not that now I've practiced. I don't need to associate with devotees anymore. Again, in Caitanya-caritamrta, we find the instruction of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in this regard. Krishna bhakti janma mol hoy sadhu sangha, Krishna bhakti janme tabe bhaktir mukhya anga. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, in the beginning of devotional service, the cause of devotional service, the root cause of devotional service arising is association with devotees. But even when one has come to the stage of devotion, pure devotion, it's still necessary to associate with devotees. So this has to be there throughout. But then again, we have to think, what kind of devotees are we going to associate with? Because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we see after his disappearance, or even in his own presence, there were so many strange ideas and wrong ideas floating around in his name. So sadhu sangha means those who can help us advance on the path toward prema, and that means those who have accepted the principle of anyabhilashita shunyam jnana kamadyanavritam anukulyena krishnanushilanam bhaktirutama. Those who have accepted the principle of pure devotional service. Now my aim of life is to serve Krishna, no extraneous desire. And for that purpose, accept the process of sharanagati, anukulyasya sankalpa pratikulyasya varjanam, rakshishititi vishvaso goptritve varanang tata, atma nikshepa karapanye sharavidha sharanagati. To accept the principles of only doing that which is conducive for advancement in devotional service, and rejecting whatever is going to be pratikul, that which is going to impede my advancement in devotional service, and to accept that Krishna is my protector and maintainer, and with that faith to throw ourselves to Krishna, throw ourselves at Krishna, fully surrender to Krishna, give ourselves to Krishna. Dikha kale bhakta kare atta shamarpan. Initiation really means to surrender ourselves to Krishna, and all this should be done karpanye dainya bhav, with a spirit of utter humility. So a devotee accepts this process and goes on with bhajana kriya. Rupa Goswami gives the process of devotional service in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. I mentioned the first, there are 64 main points which I mentioned. I mentioned 1, 2, 3. Yeah. Ata Gurvashraya. First one takes shelter of a guru. Then Krishna Dikshanu Shikshanam, take initiation and instruction from a guru. Vishrambena Guru Seva, and with affection serving the guru. And then there are various rules given. There's vidhi and nished, that which should be done, that which should not be done. This is anukulyasya sankalpa pratikulyasya varjanam. We should accept those things which are to be done, such as we should regularly recite the Srimad Bhagavatam. We should regularly take darshan of the deity in the temple. And there are do nots. Do not enter the temple in a carriage. That may be overlooked for those in wheelchairs, but generally one should walk into the temple. There are so many rules. One should not take food which is not offered to the deity. So in this bhajana kriya, the whole process of devotional service, in the beginning we may be very unsteady, but then anukulyasya sankalpa, we take a vow to do that which is conducive for our advancement. And it may not be very easy to follow. And as we're probably all aware, the mind can be very rebellious. We're trying to bring our mind to the lotus feet of Krishna. Manmana bhavamad bhaktaha, Krishna says. Bhajahure mana Srinanda Nandana. There are so many statements like this. Maharaj Ambarish Savaimana Krishna Padara Vindayoho. So first of all, the idea, I have to bring my mind to Krishna. But Maya will try to pull our mind away. And it can be a struggle. It is a struggle. But this vow to do whatever is favorable in Krishna's service and reject that which is unfavorable, this will help us. If we are steady in our activities, that, okay, I have to get up, I have to go to Mangalati, I have to chant 16 rounds, I have to do all. If we make that vow, that will help to control the mind. If we don't do that, then we'll remain always unsteady. Oh, shall I go to Mangalati today or not? No. And the next day, yeah, today I feel like it, but it's not a question of do I feel like it or not feel like it. We have taken the vow to do it. And this will help very much to make the mind steady. Otherwise the mind is always oscillating. But if we make our vow, I have to do this, I have to accept only food which is offered to Krishna and only food which is offerable to Krishna. You can stick any damn thing you like in front of Krishna and blubber some mantras, but that doesn't mean that Krishna's obliged to accept it. We should know what Krishna wants and offer that to him and then accept the remnants. So all these are very helpful. That's why our acharyas are very kindly given this. I was just giving that as an example, but I'll elaborate a little bit on that because I see it's a disease, a cancer throughout the modern Vaishnava world that people think, well, is it vegetarian? Look on the packet. I'm not sure about. Probably. Okay. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu warns, Bishayer anna kaile dushta hoiman, malin hoiman, man malin hole nahe Krishna smaran. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, if we eat food of materialistic people, that will contaminate the mind and then we can't think of Krishna. So we have to make a vow. Sometimes we may have to go hungry. Sometimes we may not get the kind of food that we like. But it's very helpful for controlling the mind. Otherwise, every time you go past an ice cream shop, the mind becomes agitated. The tongue becomes saliverous, starts salivating. And we say, I'll walk in and I'll silently offer everything in the shop to Krishna. So everyone gets benefit. But that's not the process. So we have to do that. We have to accept some rules in our lives. Understanding that if I follow this, this will help me. If I don't follow, then we can be in the position, Bahu Janma Kare Jadi Shravan Kirtan Tabuta Napai Krishna Pade Prema Dan. We may be going on with devotional service, but we don't make it. That's why I say that it's not that everyone who dies who is chanting Hare Krishna goes back to Godhead. That's not the conclusion of Caitanya-caritamrta. We could go on many lives chanting Hare Krishna and not go to Krishna. But there is a process by which we can go up. So we'll be unsteady. We can expect the mind will flicker, but if we're steady in our practices, that will help to make the mind steady. Otherwise, the mind will never be controlled. We'll never make proper progress. Some devotees who are influenced by sahajya ideas, they like to talk of prema and they think that all these rules, you don't need all these rules, but they're given by our acharyas to help us to come to that stage, and to make fun of the rules or think they're unimportant is in itself offensive to Krishna and the acharyas who have given them. They've given them so that we can develop to the stage of prema. It's not by imagination that one can come to that level. One have to do some work. If we honestly look in our hearts, there's a lot of work to do. It's not that, well, yeah, I'll be in. Now we're going to have prema in kirtan, and then afterwards, Sunday afternoon is the time for prema, and then Monday morning is the time for something else. But that's not prema, because prema doesn't stop. In the process of bhajana kriya, we may be initially very enthusiastic, but it dies down because it's not on a very strong platform. That's why we should see someone's coming forward for initiation. Don't push them very quickly. Let's see if they have a little dedication. They're not just, yes, I want to do it. We have to see, are they actually following the vows? Are they going to be able to follow? It's a risk always when we give initiation. They say, I'm going to follow these vows throughout my life. But we see many fall away. But are they serious to stick to that process? There are many obstacles on the way. Obstacles in advancement in devotional service can come from material attachment, may come from unfortunate circumstances. It may be, for instance, someone is arrested and put in prison with bad association. It may be that happened to some of Srila Prabhupada's disciples. After they'd come to his lotus feet, they were arrested for some crime they'd committed before. And they had to go to prison with not conducive association. Some devotees in prison, they preach in prison. But in general, it's not very conducive association. You won't get proper prasad. So it may be by circumstances that it becomes very difficult to practice. But there are so many obstacles which we will face on the way. Obstacles to our advancement may come by practicing bhakti. How is that? Because when we practice bhakti, people may start to notice, oh, very good devotee. And we hear, oh, they're good. They're praising me. And the principle of humility is compromised, and then we may start to do the right things for the wrong reason. We may say, well, this devotee is very good, always chants 16 rounds very carefully, and then we're chanting and thinking, oh, are others watching? Are they noticing how I'm chanting my rounds carefully? Or whatever. Or it may be that one gets some position, one is given the role of guiding others, or some administrative position, and we may think that, oh, you see, now I'm being recognized. Or we may become envious of those who have position. Why don't I have position? Or we may think that the goal of life Maya is very tricky. We may think that I'll practice and I'll get some position within devotional society. That's not our aim. It's not a career. This concept may come from material life, that you're noticed, how much money you're earning, what position you have, how much you're recognized, how much people honor you. These facilities may arise from one's advancement in devotional service, or they may arise not from advancement, but from a misconception of what devotional service is about. From the beginning, one might have the idea that my aim here in devotional service is to make myself noticed and get a position. So in so many ways, there are so many ways in which the progress from initial faith to prema, pure love of Krishna, can get sidelined or never really properly starts. Apart from all these subtle contaminations, very gross contaminations, struggling with the senses, it may be that someone who's practiced Krishna consciousness for some time starts to think that, well, now I'm safe. Now I don't need to be so careful. And then they start associating with, or they think it's all right for me to associate men and women. They may think it's all right. You say, well, we're doing it for bhakti. This is a common thing I've seen. We're doing it for the sake of devotional service. We're associating. And then that in itself is the beginning of fall down. Because Maya is there. That's why there are rules, varnashram rules, restricting association between men and women. But in the name of bhakti, we may mix up in a wrong way men and women. And it's all devotion, Prabhu, but be careful. Now, be careful means don't do it. It's not just for brahmacharis and sannyasis, it's for grihastas also. Sorry to say, but you're probably all aware that this happens in devotional society also. That one man, married man, becomes attracted to someone else's wife, and then there's 2 divorces and 1 more marriage. Not good. Not good at all. So we should be very careful about this. Don't trust the rascal mind. Don't think, it's a very common cause of fall down is estimating ourselves to be more advanced than we actually are, and underestimating the power of Maya. Srila Prabhupada himself, sannyasi, world acharya, over 80 years old, wouldn't let his elder sister, who was also 70 plus, to be alone with him. You might think, well, sister, he's old, she's old, but he set the example. He wouldn't allow it. Actually, in the early days when he was in the West, he did. He had a woman secretary and servant, but later, as the movement started to expand and he saw that devotees were, many of those he initiated didn't remain on the path of devotion, and fall down due to illicit sex was quite common. And then Srila Prabhupada, he started to speak about and implement varnashram dharma more, including separation of the sexes. Some devotees say, you see, well, Prabhupada was very liberal in the beginning and allowed women to do this and that, but later these nasty sannyasis stopped it. That's one possible interpretation, but Srila Prabhupada himself became more strict in restricting association between men and women. And these are things we should emphasize. We're talking about prema, but in the meantime we're attracted to eat some food not cooked by devotees, or we're attracted to that a woman who attracted to your own wife, that's one thing, but if you're not married or you're not married to her, then it's very, very dangerous. Maya can come in the form of devotion. A woman becomes attracted to a man who gives good class. It may even be a brahmachari, gives good classes, preaches well, does good stuff. The man may be she's such a nice devotee. And then mundane attachment arises. These things happen. It's not theoretical, so we should discuss these things so that we can be very careful and actually have anartha nivritti, cessation of those mental impressions in our minds which hinder our advancement, and unwanted practices. We can get rid of the unwanted practices by strictly following the process of devotional service, which is why the rules and regulations are given. But the unwanted things in the mind, that is going to attract us all the way up to prema. Even in the level of bhav, Bharat Maharaj, he fell down. So as long as as long as we're in the material world, we're in a dangerous position. Even we're warned in Caitanya-caritamrta that Mayavad is so insidious that even the mind of a Mahabhagavat, topmost devotee, can be shaken by that. That's very dire warning. There are so many anarthas. Anarthas arise from sinful activities. That's why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu warns about the creepers, the weeds which obstruct the healthy growth of the bhaktilata, the creeper of devotional service. First is nishedacha, forbidden behavior. There are rules you have to follow. Nishedacha, first of all, no meat eating, no gambling, no illicit sex, no intoxication, and there are so many others. If we start to engage in that, and then there may come kutniti, deceitfulness, diplomacy. We're doing something which we shouldn't do, but we say, well, it's all transcendental, Prabhu. We're cheating ourselves and cheating our others in the name of devotional advancement. Jibe hingshan, stopping the preaching of devotional service, or just cruelty to others, misbehaving with others. And these are more gross, and then there's labha puja pratishtadi jata upashakagon. There are many, many ways in which Maya can attack us. The desire for wealth, the desire for position, the desire to be honored. So anarthas, the factors which obstruct our devotional advancement, they can arise from sinful works. We have impressions in our minds of sinful activities we've engaged in this life, or maybe even in previous lives. It may be that in this life, we're born in a devotee family. That doesn't necessarily mean that we're a pure devotee. It's more likely that we were practicing in a previous life, and didn't make it. That means we still have some work to do. There may be impressions from sinful desires may arise in a person even who's lived a very pure life. The example is there of a Jamil. He had no idea, no inclination, no apparent inclination towards sinful life. But just when he came in contact, just without trying for it, just by bad luck, you could say, or the influence of time, that the sinful inclination became aroused very strongly in his heart. That means it must have been there previously. And anarthas can arise from pious works also. That we desire the fruits of pious works. We desire a comfortable situation. We may think, I'm entitled to a comfortable situation. I've done so much devotional service, therefore I deserve to have all kinds of facilities and comforts. Anarthas may arise from offenses to devotees. It may be that someone has practiced devotional service very seriously, but then somehow or other, they become offensive to devotees, and then anarthas arising from devotion, which I mentioned just in brief, and then arises within the heart ignorance, false ego, attachment, hatred, entanglement in bodily enjoyment. That's if we start to do sinful activities. From a pious, if we have had a previous piety, then we may be, what do we get? Shuchinang Srimatam Ge He Yoga Brashto Vijayate. One may be born in a wealthy family, and one is attached to comfortable living and the prestige which comes from that. Anarthas that arise from offenses will result in lack of taste for performing devotional service. Criticism lead to more offenses. And then the byproducts of bhakti. Profit, money, fame, adoration. If one sticks to the path of devotional service, always being very careful, taking guidance from devotees, then gradually all these can be overcome and we can come to the platform of nishtha, steadiness in devotional service. We have to go beyond laziness, misconceptions about Krishna and the process of devotional service. Being distracted by so many things can be very difficult. We hear, now my family has so many problems. Or we may hear that, there's so many attacks on Hinduism. What are we going to do? We may become distracted into something which is not central to devotional service. Or it may be that we're even in a very suitable, we think, I have to arrange my life in such a way that I have to change my situation and do this and do that. And we think if I get everything right, then I can do bhakti properly. But then we find out that even if we change our situation, that we have our own rascal mind to contend with. And so all these anarthas, we have to old bad habits. At least we should become steady in our practice. Stick to that. That will be appreciated by Krishna if we remain steady. Of course, even if we do follow all the rules and regulations of devotional service, it's not guaranteed that we're going to make devotional advancement. But the rules and regulations are given to help us in devotional service. But ultimately, as Srila Prabhupada states in his introduction to the Nectar of Instruction, that advancement in devotional service depends on the attitude of the performer. So steadiness, at least there should be steadiness in practice, and then we'll have a taste for it. Gradually that arises. Srila Prabhupada gave the example that in the beginning one may go to Mangalati because, well, it's a rule I have to follow, but at some point it becomes, I want to do it. I really like it. I can't imagine not doing it. I should maybe give a little caveat or here that when I return from Bangalore, I go to Vellore, I'm thinking of possibly skipping Mangalati for 1 or 2 days, because every morning, because it's very cold, I have to go outside and it's very cold, and then this cough which is going on for days and days and days, and I'm just coughing through Anyway, there may be some valid reason. In the last month I missed Mangalati, I think, for 2 or 3 days. I was sick. There may be some valid reasons, but we don't want to make a habit of that. And then we become attracted to hearing about Krishna, chanting about Krishna. Now it may be that someone who's very neophyte also has an attraction for hearing about Krishna. And we hear there are katha, many devotees, not so many, they're expert in speaking katha, Bhagavad-gita, but generally in a way which is very pleasing to the audience. Not in a way that's going to help them to overcome their anarthas. It seems to be presumed that everyone's already on the platform of love of Krishna, and therefore will speak these pastimes of Krishna and everyone loves to hear it, and they may like to hear it, but then we have to see what goes on in their life, and they may have to see what goes on in their mind when the katha is over. Then asakti, one becomes very attached to Krishna consciousness, to Krishna. Even in the stage of ruchi, there's a taste for performing the activities of devotional service. But in asakti, there's feeling for Krishna. And again, the feelings for Krishna, they must arise even in the beginning. Even in the very beginning of devotional service, there has to be some feeling for Krishna. Otherwise, we're like impersonalists. But that feeling becomes very thick and strong, so that we don't have to try to fix our mind on Krishna, but the mind is automatically drawn to Krishna. That's our natural tendency, to be thinking of Krishna favorably, and then bhav, intense feelings for Krishna, when the heart is becoming very soft. Soft means free from envy. Material consciousness is characterized by envy, dislike of others, maybe hatred toward others, which may manifest in various ways, even in the supposed practice of Krishna consciousness. Envy of others. Why are these people coming here and preaching in my zone? It may be, there's a valid reason for saying that, but it may be some kind of envy, anger at others. But the heart should gradually become soft, and then very strong desire to attain Krishna. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also said about chanting the holy names. This should be what happens. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says that Hare Krishna Mahamantra Eto Shabhav Jai Jape Tar Krishna Upajai Bhav. He says that the nature of chanting the Hare Krishna Mantra Eto Shabhav, the very nature of the holy names is that if we chant, then feelings for Krishna will arise. So when those feelings arise, and it's not just sometimes, by the mercy of Krishna, hopefully we all at times have some intense feeling for Krishna. But then when that becomes our consciousness all the time, then that is the stage of bhav, which matures into pure love of Krishna, prema, in which we're eligible to join Krishna in his pastimes. What's the key to that? Chanting Hare Krishna. There's a certain attitude in chanting Hare Krishna which gives rise to prema. Ki rupe loile nam prema rupa joy taha lakhon shuno swarup ram rai. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said to Sri Damodar and Ramananda Rai, what is it? How should we chant the holy name? What is the feeling with which we should chant the holy name that gives a rise to prema? And what's the next verse in Caitanya-caritamrta? Trinadapi sunichena tororiva sahishnuna amanina manadena kirtaniya sadahari. Easy to recite. We should recite it. But to really take it to our heart, that is the key. To really think ourselves very fallen and lowly, to be very tolerant, to know what to tolerate and what not to tolerate. That's part of being tolerant. Not desiring personal honor and ready to give honor to others. Then we can actually chant. And with this attitude, pure love of Krishna, we're on the path. We're on the path in which Krishna will fully reveal himself to us, and we can go back to Godhead and join Krishna's pastimes. Hare Krishna. I'll finish there. How are we doing time-wise? 12:51. So, what should I do now? Do you want to ask for questions or not? 2 questions. All right. So, 2 questions, if anyone wants to put a question. All right, we have one hand tentatively going up here.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. Thank you very much for the lecture. Guru Maharaj, in the Caitanya-caritamrta we find it said Nitya Siddha Krishna Prem, that Krishna Prem is already in our heart, but in another place we find Guru Krishna Prasade by Bhakti Lata Peach. So do we get Krishna Prem by mercy of Guru and Krishna, and it's already there? So how can we correlate?
Guru and Krishna give the seed of faith in the principle that I'm an eternal servant of Krishna. I am meant to serve Krishna. What's the contradiction? Ami Siddha Krishna Das Ekotha Buli Mayar Nafa Hoya Chirodin Bule. Forgetting that I'm an eternal servant of Krishna, I have for such a long time wandered around as a servant of Maya. So yes, Krishna Prema natural situation, but we've forgotten that. So the seed of devotional service is to have faith in the fact that I'm an eternal servant of Krishna, but now I am not properly situated. So there's no contradiction. Any other question?
What is the term?
Wait, please.
What does the term fortunate mean?
Well, that's already stated. Kono Bhagyavan Jeev Guru Krishna Prasade Pai Bhakti Lata Bij. One who is fortunate gets the seed of devotional service. Then this Kara Sangsha Koyan Muk Hoi. Kono Bhagye Karo Sangsha Koyan Muk Hoi Sadhu Sange Tabe Krishna Rati Upajoy. Someone who's becoming indifferent to material life, if they, by good fortune, they come in contact with devotees and their feelings for Krishna arise. So what does it mean? Well, that's the symptom of it, is sadhu sangha. And accepting that. Oh, you may be wondering, what does it mean? Do you mean to say, how do you get that? Well, that again, sadhu sangha. By the mercy of devotees. Is it related to a previous life? It may be. In this life or a previous life. Often we say devotional service is a continuum from previous life. All right, so we had 3 questions now, so we'll finish there. Hare Krishna.